Hello aqua friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Nicole. Today we're going to do a landscape painting and it's going to have some beautiful light rays coming through the forest. I'm starting off on a watercolor block. I think this is a 12 by 12 that I'm using, and I'm just wetting it with some clean water. And I'm sort of trying to keep an area in the middle where the sun rays are coming from pretty white, and so I want to keep that part paper white. I'm going to start off with my yellow colors. I am using some quinacridone gold. I also have an iso yellow deep, which is a very nice warm yellow. I guess I didn't wet my paper enough, so I just want to get that yellow moving on my paper, so I'm spraying it with some water. And then I'm going to come in with my greens. I'm going to put the greens on the forest floor and then in between those light rays. So I'm building up my colors starting off from light to dark. And because I'm using a larger size piece of paper, I am using a 1.5 inch flat brush. It's going to cover more. It allows me to work quickly and get in those wet on wet strokes while my paper is still wet. So larger piece of paper, you need a larger brush. So that's a tip for you there. Building up those colors, I am bringing in shadow green mixed with my sap green. So it's a very simple palette, basically greens and yellows. That's the only thing I used. If you don't have shadow green and you want to darken up your green, you can add red to your green. That will make a very dark green because they cancel each other out. They're opposite on the color wheels, and you'll end up with a gray color. So you can add that color to your greens to get a very dark green. You could also add neutral tint or Payne's gray or even black if you have black. So I'm increasing those yellows where I feel like I need a little bit more yellow in my painting. And I'm just making a few meandering strokes to sort of represent foliage of the trees while it's still wet. So in watercolor, splashing paint is always a good idea for some just atmospheric effects. This is kind of called charging because I'm splashing it in the green areas and it's spreading and making some really pretty patterns. So besides sprinkling the yellow, I'm also going to sprinkle some green as well and splatter that. It's always fun making a mess. And I feel like I need more contrast, so I am just using a dagger brush and I'm increasing that dark green with my shadow green to get the contrast that I need for the light rays. Especially along the edges of my painting, I'm really concentrating on adding that there. A little bit more spritz of water if your paper is drying. You can also tilt your paper and let things blend a little bit better that way in the direction that you want them to. And then just make sure that your brush strokes all point to the source of light. taking a little bit of salt and I'm just going to sprinkle it about, and that is going to open up some bleached areas. What basically happens is the salt picks up the pigment of the paint and it'll bleach out little spots in really pretty patterns. So once that dries, as you can see what happens with the salt effects, you are going to want to brush that salt off of your paper, and then we're going to go right into making our trees. So sometimes if I want to see if I like the shape of the tree I make and I'm being a little bit of a chicken, I'll just use fresh water and paint my tree in with just water. If I like the shape, then I'll go ahead and add the pigment to it. This will also have a lighter effect. You could build up your colors slowly, adding a little more paint on the left-hand side. I'm taking the leftover paint I have in my brush and making some smaller trees, some distant trees. Spraying the bottom, you do want that bottom of your tree trunks to blend in with the forest floor. So putting some trees on an angle, just some very light strokes here to represent more trees in the distance. Now I have hooker's green that I'm mixing in the works here. Using my dagger brush, I'm going to add in a little bit of foliage on these trees. And as you can see, I'm just doing like little meandering lines, kind of using the tip of my brush and also the side to get some different textural effects. Doing a few branches here. I do have a really nice thick script liner brush. It's a size 4. I also like to use it for foliage as well. So I'm trying to keep it loose. I'm trying to not think about the branches too much and just add some here and there. Increasing the shadow area on my tree. And while your tree is wet is a good time to pull out that color to make your branches. I do like that irregular shaped tree in the reference photo, kind of exaggerating a little bit here. Not all trees are going to be symmetrical and straight up and down. And this one's right in the light source, so I am starting off with the yellow, and I will keep it yellow in the middle and then build up my greens on either side of the tree, blending that out in the forest floor. Coming in with my darkest colors. The contrast is what's really going to make the light look bright. Notice when I'm adding in these darker greens, how much more bright it's looking. Adding in some branches while the tree is wet. And this size 4 script liner brush really does a great job of holding a lot of paint. It's another thing I like about it. Adding in yellow right in the middle where that sunbeam is, and then transitioning to my greens. So I'm building up my colors on that tree, trying to get the amount of contrast that I need, just so. And then I'm moving along to paint in the remainder of the trees. I'm going to put in a thicker tree on the end here. And thank God trees are not completely straight, because I can't draw a straight line to save my life. So working on the forest floor, bringing in some of those different greens for some visual effects, I have the hooker's green and sap green here. And I'm just kind of letting them blend together, skipping over some areas. Putting in some darker tones with the shadow green and having a sort of a dry brush effect, skipping over some areas. Now, while it's still wet is a good time to grab a smaller script liner brush and add in some grasses, and it just adds some nice detail to the painting. Now I'm spraying the top left side because I am going to add some foliage on that side as well. And I'm using a very light green where this light is. And then bringing in some darker green where I have the rays that are more in the shadow, the green parts of the rays. So you could add as many foliage leaves as you want, or as little as you want. Now I did feel like I needed to darken up that yellow on that main tree in the middle there, and my big head got in the way, so I apologize. So I'm just blending that out a bit. In the end, I thought it was a little strong. So once I blended out the colors and stepped back, I did blot it with a piece of paper towel here, just to dampen down that contrast a bit. So I hope you guys enjoyed that demonstration. Let me know if you're going to give it a go in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this forest tutorial, I do have another one here for you on the screen. Check out this dreamy forest background that I have.